Oh, that's not a big deal.
Good evening. Welcome to the Norton Board of Selectmen's meeting. Tonight is September 5th, 2019. Let the record show that 3 members of the board are present. We're expecting at least one other. And also present is the town manager, Michael Units. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First order of business, we have several appointments. The first appointment we have is the appointment of Charlene Fisk as part-time IT computer specialist. And we all know Ms. Fisk has been involved in the communication center for many years, and she's coming back from sick leave, I guess you'd say. So if no one has any objection, Mr. Flaherty, could you read the appointment, please?
Sure. To Board of Selectmen from Michael D. Units, Town Manager. Notice of appointment of part-time IT computer specialist. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen that in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as a part-time IT computer specialist, Charlene Fisk. Said appointment was made on September 4, 2019, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter and will be effective September 19, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to that date. I specifically request that the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of September 1, 2019.
No one has any objection, I'll entertain that as a motion.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask, I apologize for being a minute late, can I just ask the discussion that was around this? I actually do have questions on this item.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion and a second, and that would open it up for discussion.
So,
Yeah, this was the motion.
A second?
second.
Okay, discussion? Ms. Deli?
I didn't, what was part of the discussion prior to my arrival?
There was no...
There was none.
We had no questions. We're familiar with Ms. Fisk. She was the communication director for many years. She's been out due to illness, and she's just coming back. And she has expertise in IT and computers.
Okay, so I guess just a couple questions, if I may. I know when Mike was kind enough to give me a tour of the town hall when I first took office, one of the things that we talked about was we had IT support, like I think a contract of like 8 hours a week. So is this replacing that contract?
No, we'll still have the 8 hours a week. This will be in addition to that. So what Charlene did before, when Charlene was a communications director, she was also the IT specialist. So all phone service, processing the bills for the phones, the cable, anything to do with the computers, ordering any equipment that's needed by departments, it all will go through Charlene like it did before. Right now, we've been paying the secretary in the fire department overtime to handle all the billing processing, but now that will all come back to Charlene.
Okay, so when she left the position, it was vacated and lost?
Right.
So the other thing, one of the other things we talked about was the IT services that are happening now through the schools and the potential to merge those so that we have more of a centralized system and more so from a finance perspective, right? That we don't have, I don't want to say silos, but that we have kind of like a centralized, that whether it's for a municipality or for schools, that we would have that IT services for both. So is there any crossover with that? Because I think that's an opportunity that we should consider before making any
Not right now, just because it's only a part-time position. There's not enough hours. We have asked before, and that's something that we'll look at when we meet with Joe for the future. We'd love to see sharing of IT from the school department. They have a larger staff, obviously, than we do, so something in the future we'd love to see.
Is there a reason that wasn't discussed prior to this?
It has been discussed, but it was just a feeling that the staff they have is too busy to come over here and service us.
So what are the, I know you said the responsibilities are for a lot of administrative for the hardware, the phones, like the infrastructure and things. What are the other, like what are the IT-specific responsibilities?
IT, any issues that anyone has in the building with their computers, they'll call upon Charlene, and Charlene will come up and help them out with that work. Anything to do, questions they have on processes on the website and things like that, Charlene will work with them on that. And Red Alert, anything to do with, things like that.
Does she have like cyber experience or experience in like network
Yeah,
servers, outages, things like that?
she does.
Okay. Does she hold any certifications?
Say that again?
Does she hold any certifications in information security or cyber?
I don't remember whether she does or not, but she's been doing it for us for decades.
As long as I've been, yeah.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay. In that case, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. 3-1. We have a second appointment of Diane Bosch as a part-time secretary in the town clerk's office. I believe she's here to be introduced to us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to introduce Diane Bosch, who is going to be our part-timer in the town clerk's office. She worked in the town clerk's office for North Attleboro, right? North Attleboro. And then they had a big layoff, and she was laid off. Her references come highly recommended. So Diane, it's Renee, Mary, Mike, Brad, and you know Mike.
Anyone have any questions, or? If not,
Mike, got a question?
no.
Nope.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
ask-
I thought
I'm
you
gonna
were
ask Mike to-
thinking.
I have
Yes.
one question, I'm sorry. Is
Yes.
this, just to refresh my memory, is this the new position that was talked about at the October? No, not?
No, we've had a part-time position. The part-timer left about 6 months ago. The part-timer
What was
we
her
had-
name?
That was Rosalind
Last name?
Gantwork.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, so we haven't filled a position. I was hesitating to fill it because the summers are so quiet, and I was waiting till the fall, and then her resume was sent in and given to me, and it was good.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry, I was just trying to put two and two together.
Okay, in that case, I'll allow Mr. Flaherty to read the announcement as a motion.
Sure. To the Board of Selectmen from Michael D. Units, Town Manager, date September 4, 2019. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, that acting in my capacity as appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as part-time secretary in the Town Clerk's office, Diane Bosch. The appointment was made on September 4, 2019, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter, and will be effective September 19, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to said date. However, I specifically request the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of September 10, 2019.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have a third appointment, and it's kind of a formality. It's a role that the fire chief always fills, but where we've changed fire chiefs, we have to formally make Chief Simmons the Director of Norton Emergency Management. So, Mr. Flaherty.
To Board of Selectmen from Michael D. Units, Town Manager, date September 4, 2019. A busy day for you, Mike. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter that, acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as Director of Norton Emergency Management Agency for the town of Norton. Sean R. Simmons, Fire Chief. Said appointment was made on September 4, 2019, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter, and will be effective September 19, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to that date. I specifically request the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of September 1, 2019.
That was a motion. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, we'll move on to licenses and permits. We have a request from Mr. Costa to hold the Disabled Veterans Forget-Me-Not Drive. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome again.
Thank you again. I'm Frank Speakout. I'm the commander of Chapter 56 Disabled American Veterans, here to get permission to have our annual Forget-Me-Not Drive, October 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with a rain date of October 6th at Roach Brothers.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I don't have any questions. Every time you come, I like to commend you, because I know everything you collect goes directly to the veterans.
Yes, every
And-
100% goes back to the
Yeah.
local veterans and their families to help them
Yeah,
out.
I like to encourage people to look for you and even go out of your way. I know many weekends, I'll go there, not that I have any other business,
Yeah.
but just to find you, hopefully not standing in the rain. But but it's
That's why we have a rain date.
an excellent charity,
Thank you.
because you know all the money that they collect goes
Yeah.
to the people.
We appreciate the
service.
support the town of North gives us with this fundraiser.
Okay, so if there are any other questions or comments, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the requests for the disabled American veterans for a permit for the annual Forget-Me-Not Drive field held Thursday, October 3rd, Friday, October 4th, Saturday, October 5th, and Sunday, October 6th, 2019, at the Roach Brothers Supermarket, 175 Mansfield Avenue, Norton, Massachusetts, 02766.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Great.
Appreciate it.
I'm trying to find something that we can handle quickly.
Update on Wreaths Across America.
Okay. How about if we jump to an update on the Wreaths Across America campaign?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Estelle Flett, Veterans Officer for the town. Our Wreaths Across America, it's moving. We're about at 30% right now. I'm expecting to get some incoming donations anytime. It's been a long summer. Everyone's had it on their list to do, so I'm hopeful. Right now, having talks with Gold's Gym. They're thinking of doing a spin class fundraiser for us, so that will be a big help, and if they can do it more than once, even more. So anybody keep, interested in going to Gold's Gym for spin class, please do so. We have had a number of opportunities to speak with different people. We're hoping to get on to the Norton media as well, just to reach more local, people in our community. So I'm encouraged, and I feel like probably by October we'll have more information, like more solid numbers. Hopefully some of the funds that were promised will come in, and I can say definitively where we stand. But Saturday, December 14th at noon, we will still, regardless of how many we cover or not, we will have the ceremony up at the Common Cemetery. one big thing in preparing for this, we have had two volunteers in particular, Carl and Betty Petro, who Carl happens to also be our American Legion commander this year. He and his wife have taken on cleaning cemetery stones and the government foot markers. We've now completed, they have now completed, I've helped one day, the Center Cemetery on Pine Street. Big undertaking. We're very thankful that there's the power wash, but they received some great help as well. A couple of weeks ago from 21 of Wheaton's athletes. They came over and did a lot of the edging around the stones, so that was a big help. We expect to have them helping us again at the Common Cemetery, I believe it's Friday, October 13th. So big shout out to those two individuals. They've been very dedicated to it, doing it, just working. Also, just had a gentleman join us as well who's doing the senior tax work-off program. And he is also working on the cemeteries, doing the edging as well. So hope to have a few more people added to that so we can get through. I definitely see us getting through the Common Cemetery before the fall is over. So that's where we are.
Okay, just for those who don't know, I know this is to decorate the veterans' monuments, grave markers with wreaths at Christmas.
It
But-
is. It's actually more about, it's decorating, yes, ultimately, but it's about honoring, remembering, and teaching. And the goal is, they started this program at Arlington National Cemetery in DC, and the goal, again, is to have all cities and towns throughout the country do this same ceremony on December 14th, and each year thereafter. It's about certainly honoring for the sacrifices that people have made, and as well as remembering. They believe that if you stop saying someone's name, they're forgotten. So when a wreath is placed on the veteran's grave, you'll read off their name, rank, address, maybe the military branch that they were in, and continue to remember that individual. And the idea is to have everyone in the community do a part. So it's not only just, adults. We'd like to see more, and we hope to have the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts participate as well, because that's where the teaching comes in. All of us can learn something, but the idea is to, keep it going through generations, so, yeah.
And if people want to contribute?
Yes.
$10 a wreath?
It is $15 a wreath, and for every 2 wreaths you purchase, we receive 1 free. Ultimately, it comes down to $10 a wreath, but that's a donation. Donations can be sent to my office here at 70 East Main Street. You can stop by as well. You can go on to we have a Facebook page that is Wreaths Across America Norton, and go in, and we have a donation button there as well. They have a larger site for Wreaths Across America. You can go to their site and look into, search for Norton, and also donate through that.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll see everyone
Thank
on the
you.
14th of December. No snowstorm?
No snowstorm.
Yes.
And you'll come back between now and then, maybe?
Yes.
October.
I definitely, probably mid-October.
Yeah, November, mid-October, yeah. I like your idea better.
What, November? Oh.
I said October, I thought that might be too soon, so.
Oh, I'm thinking mid-October, because for the most part, I believe all donations should really be in. You can always accept money right till the end, but November 1st is a good cutoff, so we'll have an idea of how to move forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very
Very
much.
good.
Thank you.
Can we do the assessors? No, all right.
Not yet.
We have a public hearing at 7:15. Could you read the notice, please?
don't know if I have the notice.
I'm not sure if I have it either. Well, if you can just read it out of the
Yep.
agenda.
Public hearing on the application of David Patouk, DBA Chico LLC, for a license to be utilized by Caravan Lane, Inc. of 30 Charles Street, Needham, Massachusetts, for above-ground storage of fuel as required per Massachusetts Fire Code 527 CMR 1.0 as amended, for fuel storage greater than 10,000 gallons at the property located at 184 South Washington Street.
Okay. Could the applicants please come forward? Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you just state your name? for the
Yes,
record?
my name is Christopher Lane, and I live in Medfield, Massachusetts, and I am the president and general manager of Caravan Lane Company. And first of all, I want to start out by thanking you folks for this hearing and for considering our application. And I'd also like to thank all of the town offices because we have done a lot of groundwork to present this application, and all of the offices, whether it be the fire department or the town clerk, building commissioner, selectmen, clerk, everybody has been very helpful in coordinating this and making sure that we notify people properly and address people's concerns. And as the general manager of the company, a company that has been in my family since 1922, we take our responsibility for safety in particular. We deliver home heating oil, diesel, we run a depot. We're based in Needham, but we are expanding out this way. And this site would be used simply as a distribution facility. It would not be something that would be open to the public. So the process really has been a long one, and we've been working very hard to address all the concerns. And rather than me try to do it, I'm going to leave it up to the experts, the engineers, and the site people. But I do want you to know, as far as safety goes, Caravan Lane runs actually a propane school in Needham. So we understand our product. Our technicians and drivers are thoroughly trained. All of our vehicles have cameras, front and rear facing. Front facing now, front and rear facing will be installed in the next month. We also GPS all of our vehicles. And we work very hard to properly train our team members. We drug test, we do background checks, and we try our very best to run a very responsible corporation for everybody in the community. We also try to be a good corporate citizen and donate to causes like you just heard, very worthy causes and others, and diverse causes. We hire professionals when we really need it. And that's why tonight, if I could just introduce Rick Dorney. Rick has done a lot of the legwork, and he's a citizen resident here in Norton. And I'll be available here for questions from anybody. I also want to let you know that if anybody did any background on Caravan Lane, we're an A+ rated company with the Better Business Bureau. We solicit reviews from all of our customers on a regular basis. We have a very high rating. If anyone gets a bad rating, it's usually me, because I get all the trouble. But that's my job, that's what I get paid for. But overall, I'm very proud of the work we do and our responsibility to the community. So I will be here for questions. I'll just take a seat and I'll let Rick speak, if that's okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening, all. And for the record, Richard Dorney, 24 Talbot Drive, obviously in town. Also a 7-year member of the Finance Committee. And really happy tonight to be presenting Caravan Lane's desire to expand its business in Norton as the sales and business development representative for the company. Tonight, you have handouts that have been distributed. Also, we're going to present an overhead for our listening audiences as well, and video, people watching home on TV. Just tonight, be followed up, I'm going to talk more about the product, about propane, why Norton, and why we just would like to expand our business here. Follow that is Matt Hiltz, who's from Marietta, Pennsylvania, who he is the president and owner of Hiltz Propane Systems. They're a leading installer of propane systems on the East Coast. Matt's involved in many projects over many years, from Maine to Virginia. So he has a vast knowledge. As Chris mentioned, we as a company, cannot be all things to all people, and we rely heavily on experts to get us to where we need to be professionally. Chris mentioned that this has been a process that we have taken very strategically from a marketing perspective, but more importantly, from a perspective where we do not want to alter any bylaws or anything like that. We've looked at the zoning, the water restriction area, Zone 3, everything met with the planning department, the building commissioner, obviously the fire department, all-important fire department, and those have all gotten the green lights, and that's why we're here tonight. Just a brief, as Chris mentioned, Caravan Lane is, and I'm proud to work for Caravan Lane, a great company, family-owned, third generation, and we have master plumbers, HVAC techs, we have oil burner technicians, we have 25 full-service technicians on the road serving 30 communities in Boston and fanning out Metro West. We have many, I guess it's probably safe to say thousands of customers over those years, and the majority of them are heating oil customers. And propane has become our fastest growing product. And what we call our service available market now is in the towns of, we're based in Needham, so it's that Needham, Dover, Wellesley, Medfield area. Many of those towns don't have access to natural gas, but they want to cook with propane. They want to use comfort fuel. They want a backup generator. They want a water heater. They want clean fuel. They don't have that access through infrastructure. So that's been helpful to grow our business in the propane. But the real growth comes through builders and developers out in the 495 area. Many builders and developers in many towns don't have the infrastructure with natural gas. And they rely on propane as their primary heating source. And it's an important part of when they're building a development. It's an important part of that sales listing. How do you heat your home? What equipment do you have in the home? So we now have noticed that there's great growth opportunity with propane and on the 495 area. Also, propane has become very popular in other markets, school buses, transportation. So it's a product that's growing and it continues to grow, and we become more and more involved in it and learning, and we're very excited to look at Norton as a future home for us. Certainly as a start, and as we have close to 40 employees, I believe, over 40, and I think we have 40 vehicles. So, certainly, we bring the trucks here. They're going to be registered in Norton, and we'll be able to at least get something started in town where, we can move forward. So, just with that said, I'd like to really bring the next presenter up here. We have by the mention, we have everyone here tonight. We have our land surveyor, Dan O'Driscoll from O'Driscoll's Land Surveying in Medway. We also have Matt Hiltz from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So an expert on this, and hopefully he can present this and answer all your questions. And we also have Dave Patuk in the back as well. So we think that we have all the bases covered, and hope we can answer all your questions tonight.
Thank you.
With that,
Would it be acceptable for me to sit here so I can see what you're putting on the screen and talk you through changing the slides? Can we turn this mic on?
Well-
As long as that microphone, yeah.
It's on, okay.
I just want to make sure the people at home can hear you, so I don't get threats on my telephone.
Right, yeah, I can see that. It's
Yeah.
easier than turning around,
Okay.
looking at that, so. Yes, so my name is Matt Hiltz. I'm with Hiltz Propane Systems. Rick gave me an introduction there, so just in describing the project and the location, I mean, it's 184 South Washington is the location. The drawing that we're looking at up here on the screen is a Google Earth view. You can see the actual location is blocked out there towards the rear of the property, the very rear of the property, as far back as we could push it to locate the tank and the equipment. The actual installation is going to be one 30,000-gallon propane tank. On the plan, we're required to show the trucks and some domestic storage tanks, empty tanks, anything that's going to be stored there, but the actual tank containing propane alone is one single 30,000-gallon tank. The product is delivered in by truck, it's removed by truck. There's no service of propane on the site. Again, this is used for distribution to Caravan Lane customers in the area. The site lends itself well. You can see the industrial buildings. This is obviously an industrial zone. On South Washington, we have 3 fire hydrants, one located right at the mouth or the entrance of the property, which again is ideal for visiting. As you can see, this one street view, that's just showing the entrance into the site, and then the closest hydrant, which is directly across the street. If you want to hit the next slide there. This is Dan's rendering of the actual footprint of the property. Obviously, it's lined by trees the whole way around, other than the mouth or the entrance where there is a one structure out towards the road. It's quite a large opening. The site itself is currently, I would say, graveled. It has a hard surface already. The area where we're going to put the tank is going to involve, continuing a little bit of that hard surface. And the actual tank and equipment itself is going to be completely enclosed in its own fencing. NFPA 58 code requires 6-foot commercial chain link fence to secure any of these items. The rest of the property will remain as it is now. This next slide, it's the first page of our drawing set. We were required to go to the Office of the State Fire Marshal in Springfield to get the final permit for the actual tank itself. The drawing set we did is what they require and what will be submitted to them for approval that they will review. Completely based on NFPA 58, that's the gas code. It dictates the setbacks where we can locate these systems. The design, the safety valves that are required are all contained in that code book. As I mentioned, we pushed it towards the rear of the property as far as we could. We're allowed to go as close as 50 foot to a property line. So again, we pushed it to where we could hit that 50-foot mark back there. Some things shown on that again are the 30,000-gallon tank. We show the transport truck, which delivers the product into the tank, and we show a couple of sample bobtail trucks parked there. Those are the small delivery trucks that would reload and deliver to people's homes. Any time that those trucks would be parked for any period of time, they would be parked inside the secure fence. We've also shown a series of domestic-sized propane tanks. Again, those would be empty tanks. They're there being stored prior to being taken to people's homes for service connection. If you want to hit the next one. I assume at the end we'll just ask questions unless you guys want to ask questions as we go along related to the slides. Okay. The next page, that's just an elevation view showing the dimensions of the actual tank itself. The equipment will construct at our facility. It's a skid package, so it's completely delivered, ready to go, other than setting it on the ground. There will be some electrical connections that have to be made to it to operate the pump. The product, in this case, is pumped into the tank, it's pumped out of the tank. It's all handled in liquid form. It's a closed-loop system. There's no venting off of propane. There's a liquid line, and then there's a vapor return line, so you're maintaining a constant pressure between both the tank and the delivery or the reloading trucks. Again, simply for loading trucks, there's no service on site, there's no regulators or pressure differentials or drops or anything. It's a simple loading, reloading setup, so you can hit it if you want. The next one is, it's our P&ID drawing. It's a mechanical drawing set. It shows all the valves that are included in the system. We refer to those, and I'll speak of the fire safety analysis here in a moment, but we do refer to this drawing in there, just calling out the different required safety valves by code, both in the tank and in line. Again, the Office of State Fire Marshals will review this, make sure it appeases them, which it does. And again, it's part of our required submittal to them, so. Yeah, I mean, the fire safety analysis, so again, mentioning that, part of the due diligence when you're doing one of these facilities, and again, the code book does require it, is to complete what's called a fire safety analysis. So we spent time with Deputy Chief Simmons.
Chief Simmons now.
Yeah, and now Chief Simmons, collecting response times, fire equipment availability, water sources, which again, I mentioned we have hydrants very close, which is nice. Not all potential properties have that. As well as, you know, the gallons per minute of the water that's available, the lay of the land, access for the trucks. Again, all those discussions happen, and he provided, or assisted in providing the information that we've put in here. The analysis basically looks at the size of the storage tank, the number of storage tanks, and if there ever was a fire, the amount of water that it takes to keep the tank cool. If there ever is a fire, you don't attempt to put the fire out, you keep your equipment, your tank cool to protect it. So there's a calculation in here for the amount of water that's available, which we were able to exceed the amount required with the available hydrants. The code requires a 10-minute response time, you know, or sooner. We were able to achieve, I think, a 7-minute response time, if I remember correctly. So again, the location of the responding fire company and the water availability lends itself well to this property. So again, we were able to appease the required analysis. And again, this will be submitted to the Office of the State Fire Marshal for their review, and our Massachusetts professional engineer has stamped and reviewed this as well. Which again, the Office of State Fire Marshal will want to see that, so that's that. And then the final item is just a details page. Again, it just gives you a better detail of the security fencing that'll be around the system and all of the equipment. You know, there's not a whole lot to say on there. That we are showing a detail on the crash protection. Anywhere that you can have vehicle traffic around the tank or the piping connections, you are required to protect it satisfactorily from impact. So again, this would only be caravan lane vehicles in here, but again, with them operating near this tank, we need to protect it. So we're showing an approved guardrail design around the tank and piping to protect that. So other than that, again, the plans are based on NFPA 58. This is what we do every day for our company. Again, we were mentioning safety records. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years now. Unfortunately, we've had no problems or incidences. I mean, over the years, they've developed newer and newer codes, and again, to make things safer and safer. This systems completely includes what we call pneumatic safety valves. The only way you can transfer product is to actually charge the valves with nitrogen. It's inert gas, but until you charge it, no product can go in or out of the tank. They equip with what's called a fusible link, so if there ever was a fire during the transfer time, the fusible link melts and all the safety valves close. No product can enter or exit the tank. The only product you'd be dealing with was the small sections of pipe, probably 10 to 15 feet of 2-inch pipe on this skid system. Again, just with the layout, the code requirements, I mean, we've met it satisfactorily with this design, so. That's really that's it,
Okay.
you know, in a nutshell.
I have one question, first of all, is from the actual tank itself, what's the distance to the closest residence or the closest building?
The closest residence from here is approximately 300 feet away.
Okay.
We have this one building that's actually on the same property,
Right, that is-
which is very close to
That's the office.
to 184.
That is 184.
Right, correct. That would be the closest, and then the closest residence
Which is still
Which is-
300 feet.
is the same distance,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just the
yeah.
adjoining
The only
property.
reason I asked is, in reading the fire safety analysis, I think there's like a 50-foot radius for fire or something like
Yeah,
that.
we need a
And
50-foot
100
minimum.
foot-
So the code I mentioned for property line is also from what they consider an important building.
Right.
So it would be a residence, an office, anywhere where somebody's employed or lives. So they want a 50-foot minimum. In this case, like I mentioned, it's approximately 300 feet.
Right, and I think a blast residence was 100 feet or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Ms. Steele?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, so on the map, the building at the entry, it's not a house, it's not a residence?
Correct.
What is that?
That is the office of the landlord.
Okay, and then up to the left, as I'm looking at it, that is the closest residence?
Yeah, that would be the closest.
Okay.
But it's got to, if you notice, the actual location of the tank system is way in the back.
Right.
And I think the distance of the whole property, how many feet is that? Can you get the exact-
642 feet.
642 feet, and we're at the last third or 25%, 75% in. So
Yeah, to the building on our property, it was well over 300 feet from like the fence line to that. Obviously, the residence would be even further away than that
Okay.
amount.
Mr. Chairman?
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So after your building going south on South Washington Street, then there's Plantation Products. There aren't any other residents there, right? So would we be assured that none of your trucks would be going down South Washington, that it would be coming off the 495 ramp and coming north on South Washington?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. We've actually taken the latitude to, hopefully, these signs are on order. So they'll be taking.
That's coming out
Yeah,
of
they'll
the
be
property?
taking a left. The industrial park
Sorry.
is about a third of a mile away from the town line. So signs are there respecting, do not take a right, take a
That's all right.
left. Also,
I get
trucks will
yes.
not be idling. All those signs are,
And then for the trucks that are going to the facility, how will
same
they,
way, get on Bay Road, exit 9,
you'll,
go in.
your company will
Yeah.
direct them? Okay.
Yeah. And we'd be looking at probably only two trips a day, 2 or 3 trips.
From our truck.
Yes, yeah.
But delivery trucks.
Delivery
might be
trucks.
as little as once a week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you mean, so delivering the propane to the tank is once a week, and then you guys coming to get it, to take it out to the customers is twice a day?
During the wintertime, during the off-season, it might be twice a week, because things do slow down quite a bit.
Mr. Chairman. So is that 2 trips for each of the vehicles a day, or is that 2 trips total a day?
It would, I'm going to say, on the high side, would be
Yep.
2 trips a day for each vehicle.
So the 40
That's on the high
vehicles.
side. On
Okay.
average, it's going to be 1 trip a day, because And where this is really a new market for us, it's going to take us a while
Yeah.
to build that up.
Sure.
So,
Do you have projections for what you see in 5 years?
I see two trucks, two trips a day. That would be my hope, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
And one thing.
Yes.
We talk about 30,000 gallon tank. The tank really fully holds, depending on the time of year, 25,000.
25.5 if you do the exact
Exact
math. With propane, it's held in liquid form in the tank, but there is a vapor space in there, so your max fill is 85% of the tank. So at any one time, you'd be storing 25,000 gallons approximately of propane.
Is there any leak detection on the system at all?
There's no leak detection. Again, the way that it's set up, with the safety valves, they're not just in the tank, they're in line, but there's no actual way for any product to transfer at all. The way that it's set up right now, there's not a requirement to do that. There is some people that would do something like that. The issue or what happens is there's a lot of false alarms with those type of systems. Most of what I've ever seen, which is very few of them, a lot of times they're put in and then they're never used. They end up being unplugged because they're so sensitive. I mean, yes, they're to detect the smell of propane and the stench that's in there, but there's a lot of other things that seem to set them off. So they become almost more of a hindrance than anything. So it's not a very common practice at all to equip with that.
And what we do with all of our existing propane customers, or certainly the majorities, we have a monitoring system. So the monitor is on the tank, Wi-Fi into our computer system at the office. So we know, we can detect, oh boy, this is a little bit of a abnormality every day.
So you're tracking the volume
Yeah,
through some sort of...
exactly. Yeah.
Which you can now get through your cell phone, so you can be anywhere and see your
It's
tank
actually-
levels. And so yes, you can monitor it from a distance. It's not an actual sniffer system like you
It's right
first
here.
asked. but-
Okay.
So-
Does it push any notifications if it detects a significant drop outside of...
You can
normal
set
business
many
hours?
different prompts. That's absolutely one of the things that's available.
Okay.
When there's any change in the product level.
So we have fill stations in Sudbury, in Norwood, and Franklin. They're all monitored. We're able to detect exactly how much propane is in each tank. And it's accurate to the fill. So, and one thing I didn't bring tonight, but we were recognized by this town of Sudbury, the Sudbury Fire Department. That location, it's on Boston Post Road, Route 20. It's not far from the Fire Academy in Stowe. And those firefighters do train, and they have been on site to our facility in Sudbury and have learned. And we would certainly extend that offer to the fire department here as well.
Ms. Steele?
If I can mention one other thing regarding fire safety. We have, there's another gentleman here, his name's Patrick McClay. Pat, could you stand up just for a moment? So Patrick's been with us for 12 years now, and, thanks, Pat. And he is going to be attending a joint fire academy between the state of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And it's really for firefighters, but Patrick and another, one of our team members, Phil Halverson, are going to be going up so that they can assist for a propane emergency with any fire department in our area. And whether it's our company or not, they'll be on a list of people that they can call that have skilled and trained and certified in a response. So we do take that very, very seriously.
Okay. And did I hear that you've had a recent hydrant flow test to make sure that the flow from that hydrant is sufficient for what you're storing there?
So again,
Hydrant? I'm
Hydrant
sorry.
flow test?
he's
Oh, yeah.
speaking of the fire hydrants
Oh, yeah.
again, in working with Chief Simmons, he was able to provide us with the current gallon per minutes, and that's what we included in the analysis.
Any other questions?
Go ahead, Mary. Did you have one on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So I think at the beginning of the presentation, we were told that planning, building, and fire have all signed off on this. So, no. So I would actually, because all representatives are here, I was just curious if we could get some feedback from any concerns that you guys had, or if you don't have any concerns, or, because I actually feel that they know a lot more about this than I do. So if I could impose.
Yeah, no, I think it's an excellent point. I'd rather have the experts tell us their feelings.
Hi,
Good evening,
Deputy
Deputy.
Chief Keene. So at this time, we've been working closely with them, and we do not have any concerns. However, this plan does have to go before the Department of Fire Services, and then once that is completed, then it comes back to us for the permit for the storage of the propane, and then we'll do an inspection to make sure everything's safe, and it's in accordance with the law.
And do you feel that, God forbid something were ever to happen, our department, our fire department is equipped with whatever equipment we would need, and guys that are trained in, fighting
Yes.
such a fire or whatever?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in the fire safety analysis, you have to meet that criteria.
Okay.
And we will be training with them also.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question on that? And I'm not sure if it's a question for you or Matt, for you. You mentioned during the presentation that if you have a fire, that you don't necessarily try to put the fire out, you try to keep the tank cool?
Right. Yes.
Can you explain that a bit? Like, what's the procedure and the purpose?
Because you don't know where if you put the fire out, then you don't know where the liquid's going. So you want to cool the
Like
tank so
burn
it
it.
doesn't explode.
Okay.
So you want to burn off the product.
And how long would it take to burn 25,000 gallons of?
Do you have analysis on that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so,
Depends on,
so
Depends on rate
again,
and all that of flow.
I'm going to use the term impossible at this point, and I probably shouldn't, but again, with the way the safety valve features are now into these tanks, they're threaded up into the tank, and again, the only way they're possibly held open so product can leave the tank is if they're pressurized with the nitrogen. The moment you could take a lighter and melt the nitrogen tubing, it releases the nitrogen and they close. So now, back many years ago, before internal safety valves were designed, there was what was called an excess flow, which could there was no way to remotely close it and to hold it open or closed. So yes, when there was a fire or rupture, until you could somehow control that in the tank, 25,000 gallons would come out of the tank. Okay, now you're limited to dealing with whatever's in the piping. You're talking maybe 20 gallons at that point, okay? Now, if you have a very small leak and it's liquid propane, it does take a while for that to bleed even out of the piping, but you're limited at this point to that. There's no possible way to open those valves without that pressure, and if there's a fire, they will not hold pressure, so.
Is there any concerns with contamination? That if that 20 gallons were to leak in liquid form?
I can answer that. So, I mean, propane is considered a green fuel, okay? You're not required to go to DEP or EPA with it because when propane is released, it vaporizes, okay? It is heavier than air, so it will go down towards, close to the ground, but by the time it hits there, it vaporizes. It doesn't actually leach in. It doesn't stay in liquid form. So therefore, there's no secondary containment. Again, you're exempt from the EPA because it's not considered a pollutant or contaminant.
Thank you.
And if I may, if I remember, aren't there remote manual shutoffs also?
Correct. Again, so aside from the fire possibly contacting the fusible link, at any point there's remote shutdown stations. So those valves, you can hit buttons and they actually close remotely. Okay, so again, the code requires you have them at the points of transfer and minimum 25 to 100 feet away. We'll comply with that. So if there was an issue, even probably before the fire would have an opportunity to burn through, the operator, whoever's there, could hit a button and shut the valves as well. That's an option. Or if the men respond and the fire hasn't yet reached the fusible link, at that point, they would have the opportunity to close the button remotely as they approach the system.
Any other questions?
I'm going to have further questions, but
Sure. Not of
not of the.
fire department.
I'd be curious to hear what Mr. Carmichael has to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've yet to review the plans.
Any, Ms. Deli, you,
Anything from Paul?
oh,
On this, we didn't have any formal, Paul DiGiuseppe, Planning Director, we didn't have any formal submissions, but we were just confirming that a use is allowed in, this use is allowed in industrial zoning, sorry.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm confused about our role. If building hasn't reviewed it, but this is an application for a license.
exactly, this is an application for a license. Planning would get into when they have to go for permitting to actually install it and
So this isn't approving the project, it's just saying
that they can
you can
put the
apply for
tank
the
there.
license and then meet all of the requirements.
Right, at least that's my understanding.
It's the reason why I'm not on the planning board.
Do we have
Maybe
any
should be.
butters?
I want to get everybody done.
So the reason they need the license is because of the size of the tank.
Okay.
And then, like I say, Department of Fire Services approves it, and then it comes back to us for a permit from the fire department for the product.
Ms. Deli?
I have some questions, if I may.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt during the presentation. I thought you guys were doing a great job. I just have to find my questions. Can I ask Christopher about the number and frequency of incidents that you've had historically?
Oh,
Incidents?
we've had zero.
Okay. And you've been in business how many years?
Well, we've been in business since 1922. We've been in the propane
Propane.
business for 12 years.
Okay. And you've had no incidents as
No
part of the propane?
No.
In respect to the fenced-in area, I see how the fencing is. Is this secured electronically? Is it by key? Like, how are the trucks getting in to the area?
Again, at minimum, it needs to be padlocked.
Okay.
They could decide to use electronic gates with remote keypad. There's multiple different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't know if you've given that any thought.
I honestly haven't, but I do want you to know that we will have security cameras there.
That was my next question.
And we will be monitoring that, and we get pinged when there's activity.
Okay. Do you have a central station that's monitoring that for you 24/7, or is it?
We will,
Okay.
but also there'll be specific employees, team members that will be responsible, including the on-call person.
And the person who lives closest?
Yeah. I just want a shorter commute.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you, and that's why, when you were talking about the building, I was wondering if that was going to be your new home.
That's not going to happen.
I think, Matt, you had mentioned that there are tanks there, tanks that are stored there to be repaired. Are repairs happening? No?
Not repaired.
Okay.
We refer to them as a domestic tank. It's a small tank that people would have at their home. It's the tank that when these guys fill their delivery truck will go and put product in for the customer, okay? When they buy these tanks, they would buy like maybe a trailer load of them, brand new, set them on the ground, and as a new customer calls and said, I would like to have service, they would deliver one of these tanks. They're empty. They're just empty steel tanks ready for them to deliver to a home and then provide product into it.
Okay. And the product only comes from a truck into that when it's installed?
Correct.
Correct.
And can you talk, I can't tell on this picture, you said, I don't know what a bobtail is or its size, and then there's another one that says a transport vehicle. Is a transport vehicle like a semi?
Transport, it is. It would be a 48-foot trailer, and that is the truck that's used to deliver product into the tank. And then as needed, they will fill the smaller, their 2,900-gallon bobtail. We refer to them as a bobtail delivery truck.
That tanker would not be there all the time. It would only make the delivery and then leave.
Once a week,
Yeah.
gone, approximately 45 minutes to offload. He'll be on site by the time he drives in, offloads, turns around and leaves. He'll be on site for no more than an hour.
And are there safety procedures when there's any sort of transfer of the product, that there are two people there? Like how?
There
How
is
do you ensure
not,
that?
that is not a requirement, but they've come a long way with different remote shutdowns as well. Obviously, there's procedures that need to be followed, okay? The delivery driver's gonna be more than trained, but they actually have to shut the vehicle off. They have a remote system that they wear that no matter where he's at, he can remotely shut the transfer operation off, okay? He doesn't have to walk up to the truck and close the valves. Very similar to our safety valves in the tank. He has the same thing on his truck as well, okay? Different delivery companies are going to have different procedures for safety and response if things happen. And some of them do have a way, to communicate back to their main office when they're making the deliveries. I honestly can't speak 100% for those systems, but there's several safeties in place to protect that employee. But the standard in the industry would be for one man to make the delivery.
The other thing that's important is that when they make a delivery, we will only order product and they will only deliver product when there's plenty of room in the tank to fit that delivery. So it would never be a case where they couldn't empty that truck completely into the storage tank.
Okay. I mean, I just wonder, like, if a single person's going back there, it's a pretty isolated area.
That's a very good question, and from a company policy standpoint, I would agree with you that we would want 2 people there, one of our representatives and the truck transport. So I can assure you that will be one of our policies.
Okay.
We're just not, there's no need to have a person there by themselves. So I think that's a very good question, and that would be one of our policies.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we'd also have all the emergency numbers posted on a sign there if there was ever a need for anything, and all the emergency buttons and things clearly labeled. So I think that's a very important point, and I can assure you that there'd be a minimum of 2 people there.
Great. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions? If so, could you please come up to the microphone, identify yourself so that the our clerk can get your name for the minutes.
Good evening. Lawrence Costant, 186 South Washington Street, Norton.
Thank you.
Literally next door.
Yeah.
I have a lot of concerns, but I have a lot of questions as well. First thing is that this isn't going to be solely used by your company because there's already an existing company there. It's a shoring company, correct?
When you say the property would be, but not this area, the area that we're doing
Right,
fencing, they won't.
They're
will
at the
not-
far back of the property,
Yeah, they won't be using the facility at all.
but there's already 8 to 10 trucks coming in and out of there every day, moving large 1,000, 2,000-pound shoring plates around the property with forklifts, dropping them regularly to the point where the house shakes next door. This is kind of not a good place for this, I don't think. If it was a standalone, just this empty lot, and they were going to do it, I'd say maybe it's okay, but you already have an existing business with a high volume of traffic there, trucks dieseling constantly, all day long. I've called, I've spoke to Brad about it already. So this isn't a standalone property. It's a dual-use property. So I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. Maybe they're, going to have everything for their standards and high security and so forth, but we're depending on the responsibility of another trucking company, another organization to make sure that that place is secure. We're talking about 30,000 gallons of propane to count on other people that have no interest in this company to protect the interest of people that live next door. Now, I know this is an industrial zoned area, but we're still residents living there. You have at least 5 residents. You have more residents than you do industry there right now. It's a reality. So there's still people there that have to live with this. And there's a lot of issues that I can see that I haven't heard addressed. It's a dual-use property, I've already mentioned that. Traffic volume, right? So they may only have 2 trucks coming twice a day, that's 4 trips, amongst the other, 8, 10 trucks coming in and out of there every day. So what happens when they pull in and because as much as you like to say that it's a large opening, it's not. It's what's the frontage there? The fire department may know. Do you know what the frontage is?
It's right here, 100 and...
138 feet, almost 137.59 feet.
So 137 feet of frontage. Now you have these forklifts, these other tractor trailers in there, flatbed trucks. So when they show up to do a delivery, and there's already 2 trucks in there, which happens all day long, what do they have to do? They have to sit out on South Washington Street. We already have trucks sitting out on South Washington Street waiting for other ones to come. Creates a traffic problem. Cars have to pass on the wrong side of the road. South Washington isn't that wide of a street. You know, this is just not a location for this. I disagree. This is not the location for this. There's plenty of industrial areas in town. We just built a beautiful industrial park right over on 140. No room over there? You know, what about the industrial park that's actually Norton Commerce Center? There's no room over there. They're developing that. Why are we picking this location? It makes no sense to me. You know, the security, you know, that they're gonna have a locked fence. Okay. Again, we're still talking about a lot of flammable fluid. And I've spoke with them briefly, and I realize that there's a lot of safety features. I am an insurance appraiser. I do damage appraisal, and I do a lot of damage appraisals for explosions. May not necessarily be for a propane tank of this size, thank God, but, you know, gas grilled propane tanks, they go up, and they're big. So multiply that, you do the math. The explosions, can you not, I mean, maybe there's 1,000 precautions, but I don't care, it can happen. I've spent the last 2 years in Lawrence doing claims. So natural gas, propane, yeah, different delivery system, all that stuff, but it happens. Did anybody ever think that two cities were going to be blown up because of natural gas? No, it's a secure system. Things go wrong. You have residents there. There are other buildings there. It's a dangerous place for this. Not to mention it's a security risk. Is it a soft target? Did anyone talk to the police about this? Is it a soft target, hard target? I don't know. BJ's couldn't put it in the gas station because they deemed it would be a potential, you know, terrorist target. 30,000 gallon propane tank isn't? I really think you guys need to think this through. I think you do. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just ask, but before you walk away, can you talk a little bit more about the business that's there now? So you said there are
there's a business there, it's called a Shoring Company. So when you dig up a street or you dig a ditch, they have to have what they call ditch boxes. They're huge iron boxes. They slip in to prevent cave-ins for anyone that may be in a ditch. When you're digging up a street, at the end of the day, they're not done with it. They put those big iron plates over it that you can drive over. They rent them. So trucks come in and out all day long picking up these different plates and ditch boxes to take to different job sites. And it's constant, all day long. I live there all day, and I work from home most of the days, so. And those trucks sit there dieseling, half hour sometimes, while they load up, sit out front dieseling, waiting to be able to pull in. You got their forklifts out there running. Now, I know they told me when the trucks pull in, they have to shut down because it's a safety protocol. What about the other trucks? They don't have to follow the same rules, I don't think. And it's, you know, it sounds like, you know, it's far back, it's all the way back there. But that Shoring Company's taken up a good portion of that yard. So there's a lot of stuff back there. Now, I'm sure they're gonna pull some up because he wants to rent out his property or lease out his property to them. But these are, you know, it's not that big of an area, it's 2 acres of land. You know, so you have 2 acres of land with trucks moving in and out, forklifts, and very large, heavy pieces of equipment in iron plates and iron boxes being tossed around there, literally tossed around. Pictures fall off our walls from these people. So I can't imagine that this is a real safe place for this. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone have any follow-ups on the board?
Mike, would you mind putting up the satellite view for a second? So I definitely wasn't aware of the other business that was there. I think that would have been a nice piece to hear about.
It doesn't show up very well.
No, it doesn't, and that's, I thought it was just a
That used to be Waterton Road.
building.
And before that, that place used to be a Mazda.
No, it's not the same location. That's Google Maps, so that's not counted. The Sherwin Company just went in there, maybe 2 months ago. So that's Google Maps. I mean, that's really old, because I can't even see the addition on my house, so. And I've had that for 5 years. So that's an old Google Map.
You get a building permit for that?
Could I address the truck stop?
Yes.
Please.
So we do deliveries all day, all the time. And I can assure you that our trucks will not be sitting out on South Main. South Washington. They will not be sitting out there. If they have to, if there is anything that's going to impede them from getting into that, which I don't think will happen, because we will coordinate, they'll just move on. They will not be sitting out there. That's a protocol that we follow all the time with any traffic situation. If we can't get in, we move on. During things like during school hours, we don't have our trucks go by school zones. There are policies and procedures that we have. So I can assure you that that will not be happening.
And Chris, during our first site meeting there, when everybody met, that was one of the items that was discussed, assurance that there would be access constantly back to the area that you would be using. That's been discussed, and logistically, you know, as far as what's going on there now versus his trucks, we worked it so there was area for the trucks to turn around. We're confident that there's not a conflict related to that.
And also those signs will be posted.
Well, I thought about that when you said the trucks would just move on if they can't get in. Well, the only way that you can go is down South Washington Street, and then you're hitting right into the residential area, so.
They could enter the site and turn around, though. This activity that's happening, yes, it's happening on the site, but it's not right out to the street. It's probably 150 feet in, and if you were to go look at it now at least, there's plenty of room that you could get in and leave again, if that was the case. But again, the discussion is to have a dedicated lane back to there, so there.
A dedicated lane, but would it be a dedicated entrance too?
If I may, could I ask Mr. Carmichael to come up here? Because he might be able to enlighten us on the other
Existing.
business. 'Cause if it's new, I want to make sure that his license, that, you know, we were aware of it, and it's not somebody just set up shop.
So once this goes through the fire department, State Fire Marshal's office, it will come back to us for permitting, and we will address a lot of these concerns. As for the protection around the tank itself and the structure, the canopy, the suppression system, we'll be issuing that permit through the building department. We will be requiring bollards that, through ASC 7-10, that will require a 6,000-pound lateral force at 2 feet high, so that one of these trucks won't back into it. We'll make sure that they're far enough back. If we do have concerns about the site, I might recommend a site plan review, so that we do see turning radiuses and trucks entering and exiting. I offer maybe a contingency on the permit that all trucks enter through the industrial park as well. So we'll be addressing a lot of the issues during the permitting process. But if you have special things that you want, then we can put them on that permit.
I mean, myself, I would think that in addition to putting the pilings,
The bollards.
protections around the tank, it might make sense to have a row of them to make almost like an access road, so that we know that the business out front isn't going to infringe on access for them, or drop one of the plates, or, you know, so it's something to divide the hazards. So that somebody who's not driving a forklift and put it through a LP tank.
Around the tank. He's speaking of dividing the lane. I think there's a way that you can dedicate and
Yeah.
mark that lane and have an agreement that would appease people, and that could be shown on the plan, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's, I mean, just so that, even, any kind of a divide or
Yeah.
something, just to make it so that we're not.
We've seen people line lanes with like a mafia block. Obviously, if there's mafia blocks there, again, you're dividing it. People aren't going to be able to actively back trucks in and out of the lane. There's ways to
Right.
do it that make sense, so.
So again, I would recommend maybe potentially a site plan review from the planning board, so that they see that the turning radiuses in the site has been divided properly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Ms. Steele?
Would it, I'm sorry, I didn't remember your name.
Larry Costa.
Mr. Costa, so I think that you brought up some, valid concerns, and just two things. One, just to be clear in what our role is tonight, if we approve the applications for the license, the concerns that Mr. Costa brought up would be addressed and validated through the planning and building process, right? Okay. And then the other thing, now that we're looking at this, considering there's another company on that site, so the landlord that you're renting from, I would feel comfortable knowing what sort of arrangement you guys have with them, what sort of commitment he's making to make sure that your operation is safe as far as his operation is concerned, if I said that clearly.
How they would interact safely.
Yeah. What are the safeguards going to be that two companies could possibly operate on 2 acres and, one heavy equipment moving and one that's somewhat sensitive? What is the relationship going to be? And is the landlord, we don't know this other company at all, so I would feel a little bit.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dave Patuga. I am the owner of the property there on Northeast Shore. I'd like to-
Could you just come up, please? And just restate your name.
My name is Dave Patook. I own Northeast Shore. I've been in business for 23 years, and I just bought that property, I think it was back in May or so, and in the process of improving and bringing it up to code and everything else that we need to operate. As far as my neighbors' concerns here, I have been wanting to come over and introduce myself to them. I absolutely understand the situation of being a neighbor with bad neighbors. My intention is to be nothing but a good neighbor, and I wanted to come over and talk to you guys and see what we can do to make sure that we are a good neighbor. I've had bad neighbors before, and I know what it's like. It's no fun, and I would never inflict that on anyone. As far as the trucks idling, I've been trying to put a stop to that since day one. We only have mostly one trucking company that comes in and that does our deliveries, and they all have strict orders to shut their trucks off as soon as they get in. In fact, I think you saw the signs. I don't think everybody else did, but we have some signs on order that I plan on putting up instructing no idling, no right turn into the residential area, only come in and off through exit 9 there. And basically, we try not to make a lot of noise. If there's any issues, I would like to invite my neighbors to come talk to me or call me, have my numbers. Like I said, I really understand, and my intention is to be a good neighbor for everyone. You folks on the other side, and also the town of Norton and everybody that's involved. I've been in business for 23 years with this business. I have a very good reputation, and we're in the business actually of providing equipment that saves lives. So it's a very important product mandated by OSHA, and we work with contractors all over the New England, and it's a good product, necessary product that we have that allows everybody to have utilities, water and sewer to their houses without my business or my type of business, and none of that would happen. So we're in the business of helping people, not hurting people. And we don't want to inflict anything on our neighbors that would just for the sake of enriching ourselves. That's not the way, I known Chris for a long time, that's not the way I operate. It's, we're all in this together, and we all got to work together, and we're happy to do so. And so.
So, if I may, working on that one site, do you think that the trucks could flow.
But we've already got it, yeah, there's already a line that goes through there for our own trucks and our own forklifts. We have everything's on one side, and on the other side, it's already, there's already a designated path to the back. And that's not gonna be a problem at all. Yeah, we've already got it set up that way. We use it that way ourselves.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
That's okay. Were you aware of the traffic issues that he was talking about with the trucks idling out on the street?
Yes, actually, not on the street. I've never seen it so crowded that there's been any trucks on the street. We've got 2 acres here, trucks, there's plenty of room to pull in, and we made a big area to pull in off the street, so that they could do that. I've talked to the truck drivers about idling. I want to put those signs up. That goes up my, whatever, too, those trucks idling. I can't stand it. But truck drivers are just in the habit of leaving them running. They think they forget that they can shut them off and start them, just like a car. And in fact, we just had a big thing with it with one of the truck drivers last week. And that's absolutely a no-no over there. And I know it's happened. I'm not denying that it hasn't happened, but I'm putting a stop to it. And eventually, these truck drivers will get trained to turn off their key before they get out of the truck. It just has to happen that way. There's no reason to just make the noise or the pollution, and there's just no need for it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Can I ask that you provide your contact information to Mr. Constant, so that if he encounters any trucks idling on South Washington, that he
With
can
my neighbor?
to you directly? Yes.
Absolutely, no, I would love to. In fact, I've been meaning to go over there, and I go over there sometimes the car's not there, I work late, whatever. I'd like to go over and have a beer with them and see what we can do just to make things good.
And I would invite you to have, to reach out to us if there's continuing issues
Yeah.
with the, with any trucks.
Yeah, I have no interest in ruffling any feathers, believe me.
Sure. And it sounds like there's 2 separate issues. There's the concern about the ongoing operations and the vibration, which it sounds like you're willing to address with the abutters.
Yeah.
And how that impacts with the newly proposed business there.
Well, that won't have any impact on their situation at all. But, you know, if my guy flips over a trench box right next to his house, I can see how I could knock a picture off the wall. He doesn't need that. And I could talk to my guys that work out in the yard, and we're close here, a little bit closer than we had been in the past to any houses or anything like that. So, we just got to know what's around us and act appropriately.
Okay. Is there any concern from your standpoint about vibrations from this equipment coming off the trucks?
No, I mean, first of all, the distance of where he's actually handling those pieces of equipment to where the tank is gonna be, I mean, again, we're talking well over 100, probably 150 feet to the closest.
Yeah, I mean-
house in there. And the way that we're designing this, where it's all completely affixed to the skid's sitting on a slab, but everything is firmly attached there, to be honest with you. It's not like you have separate pipes that are affixed to the ground, attached to the tank separately, so if there was movements and anything that happened, that's one of the benefits of the skid design.
Okay.
Is that everything is one unit. It technically could move and be fine, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would very much like to see, as Mr. Carmichael suggested, seeing a site plan that shows the turning radius of the various trucks that come in for both sides of this business proposition.
Yeah, that's easy to do for us. I've kind of already informally laid that out.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions or comments?
okay,
Thank you very
all
much.
right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oops. Anyone else have anything to add? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Is that a roll call? It's a roll call vote. Ms. Stelly?
Yes.
Ms. Steele? Ms. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Flaherty?
Yep.
I also vote yes. Okay. What's the board's, what do you think the chair's? What's the board's wish to proceed? Are you ready to vote tonight, or do you want to table this until next meeting? Yes, Ms. Steele.
Mr. Chairman, I may be wrong, but I think that our role is just to approve the application so that they can go forward. And then I think it's the other department's roles to determine whether this is a good fit for the town of Norton and bring it back to us. And so, from my point of view, I would make a motion that we approve the application for the license.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Can I just add something?
Yes.
And it's not that I didn't take seriously your concerns. I think that they are concerns, and I think that if you follow up with the planning and building as the meetings go on, if you have any concerns that you don't feel are being addressed, you can always come back to the board. So our vote tonight is to allow them to apply for the license for the project, but then it's the other boards that are going to determine whether this is allowed or not, and they're the ones that would be hearing your concerns, and if you don't feel like you're being listened to, by all means, come back and we'll hear your concerns again. And one other thing, hopefully a silver lining out of this is you did meet the landlord and owner of the land, so hopefully what seems to me to be the bigger issue of the original business that's there, hopefully you guys can work together and maybe improve the quality of life that you guys have.
That being said, we have a motion and a second. And should I roll call this one?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to take a roll call vote. Ms. Deli?
Yes.
Ms. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes.
Now also will vote yes. Thank you very
Thank you all
much.
very much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure those concerns will all be met.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We now have a presentation on the senior tax work-off abatement program and the veterans tax work-off abatement program.
Good evening.
Good
Denise Ellis, Director of Assessing. And
Stella Flood, Veterans Officer.
Still, huh?
so tonight, we want to, so we've had the senior work-off program since 2003, and I've been here since 2016, and we've never made any changes to it. So right now, the senior work-off program, we're allocated about 20 spots at $500 a person, and we haven't used those spots. So I would like to present that we up the amount to $750. We haven't changed that since it began in '03. And then one of the reasons why I want to do that is because minimum wage has been going up, and it's going to be going up until 2023, up to $15 an hour. So every year, they're only allowed $500, but now they're working less. And a lot of people don't want to do it because it's only $500. So if we could bump it up to $750, it would be useful to a lot more people. And also, the annual income for the seniors, they have to be 60 years or older to apply. The annual income for a single person was at $45,000, and I want to bump that up to $47,000. And that the combined income for a couple was $60,000. I want to bump that up to $62,000. Hopefully, that'll bring in a few more people.
And you're going to keep the 20 spots, so 20 spots.
And we'll still have the 20 spots. We had 13 people apply last year, only one person was denied, so we had 12 seniors working for us last year.
Yes, Ms.
Mr.
Steele?
Chairman, actually, these are great programs, and I'm 100% for them, but I think it's important, I don't know, do you guys know how it works as far as the taxes? So it's not like we just give this money out, we have to recover it through our taxes, right? So I think that
Right.
maybe if we just, since
So-
it's changing, if you could just explain that.
So what happens is this money is put aside from the overlay. And the overlay is an account that we have put aside for the work-off programs, all the exemptions, whether they're senior exemptions, veterans exemptions, and any real estate abatements. So I have to keep a certain amount of money in there every year for all of these exemptions, which is the account for the overlay. So this would come out of the overlay.
And what happens if you don't use all the money? Is it-
So, nothing happens. So so it's changed a little bit. The overlay is one account now. So every year, the Board of Assessors decides how much they need to keep in the overlay. The last few years, it's been around 300,000, depending on what our abatements are. Next year, it's going to go up a lot because we have a few out there with the ATB, but that's different from what the work-off program is. So if we took, it would be an additional 5,000 altogether if we filled those spots. Since I've been here, we've never filled those spots. Any other questions on that?
Mr. Conway?
What's ATB?
ATB is the Appellate Tax Board. So if somebody, we do our values every year. If somebody doesn't agree with the value, and we don't give them an abatement, the board denies it, they can go to the Appellate Tax Board and file with them. I have to keep money in the overlay for the difference of what they think their house is worth to what we're taxing them on. So I have to figure out what that is and keep that money aside, in case we lose. We always hope we win. But a lot of times, we try to work with them before we even get to that point, because it's expensive for them. They have to pay a fee to file, and then I have to go into Boston for the day. So I would rather work with people instead of going in there. Residential, I have a couple going on. We'll see what happens with them, but it's mostly businesses that I end up going in on. So we have a couple of those, a couple big ones.
And this question is for both yourself and Estelle. Is $750 the right amount, or should we perhaps consider?
Well, so for the seniors, I was going to go $750 for now. And again, the minimum wage is going up every year, so I was going to review it again in maybe 2 more years and kind of see where we're at, and maybe up it again, if that works.
So currently, the Veterans Work-Off Program is $1,000, and that was dictated by law out of the Valor Act back in 2012. I'm coming to propose an increase to $1,500. Again, that's now also coming out of, or most recently, the BRAVE Act, which was signed just after we initiated the first year of the Veterans Tax Work-Off Program. So my dollar amount would go up to $1,500, also increase by $5,000 because I opened this up to just 10 veterans versus the 20, so.
And how many actually take?
This year I've had 3 out of 10. I'm hopeful that, we continue to promote it. I recently had 2 veterans come in to look at it, anxious to do it, but their gross income was exceeded. And I think it's a pretty generous for a single veteran for FY20.
FY20, yeah.
FY20 will now be $54,615, and it increases with each dependent. Because unlike seniors, it's just the 2, generally 1 or 2. This can, depending on family size, so.
Mr. Chairman.
What?
Just kidding, go ahead. Mike, just a quick question. If somebody's interested in participating, but they don't have the physical ability to do it, somebody can work for them, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, in both cases. Yep. They just, I require that they be 18 years or older, if it's, but yes, they can work. Anybody can work for them. Absolutely, because there are a lot of seniors and veterans who probably can't do some of the jobs that are out there, so absolutely. And we encourage that with everybody.
So with the $1,500 for the veteran program, for the FY20, the amount of volunteer hours will be like 117. And, if you break it down, it goes quickly, and it makes it a little more worthwhile for each department to actually do some training, because they're there for that many hours more. So to this point, it worked out. This year was 83 hours, and it worked out well. I had the 2 worked over, I had 1 work at the senior center as well as at the school, and another worked in conservation as well as at the school. So, any department is open who requires or needs a volunteer.
And the other thing is, if the senior or the veteran doesn't work all their hours, it doesn't matter. They just get paid for what they work. So like the seniors this year will have to work, if you approve it, will work 58 hours. But if they only do 40, then they'll get paid for the 40. So if they don't, I mean, it's fine if they don't finish it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's something you just mentioned that they worked at the school. Does that require any Corey checks or?
That's part of the application process.
Okay.
So what happens is, we have the applications in our office, they bring them back to us, we approve everything, you know, we review them, then we send them down to the tax collector's office, and they will do a query check. Once that query check is done, they'll give us a list, and then we send the list out to all the department heads.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Where people can, as to Ms. Steele's point, where they can volunteer to work on behalf of a veteran or is it typically somebody who they know, or is there a place that if people who are watching might be interested, that they can volunteer to be a volunteer?
They could
To do that.
definitely volunteer. I do have that situation this year. I have
Okay.
an individual who lives in a mobile home park, which is not eligible for the abatement, so she is working on behalf of someone who cannot, and neither knew each other, but responsible and have a skill set to work, you know, in the department, and is tracking the hours, and that in other, you know, it's actually a widow of a veteran will receive the benefit.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible to liaise with the schools on this and kind of do community service hours as well as counting towards this program?
They could, sure. They could probably do that.
Win-win for.
But as long as they're 18, so I mean, they'd have to be the seniors, but they could do that, absolutely. The schools used most of our seniors last year. I think they're doing the library over, so
Yes.
I think I had
That's
one.
where they work,
That's
yeah.
where they all worked, so I had one senior in my office, and maybe a couple other floating around, but everybody else went off to the schools and helped over there.
Right.
But,
I was thinking more from seniors in the school system to come out and volunteer on behalf of some of the folks that may not be
Yeah.
able to do this on their own,
Yeah, I love it.
sure, I mean.
as long as they were 18 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that would be a requirement, so, yeah, absolutely.
And since this is a, like an accrued value and not an all or nothing, is there any, I guess, risk in increasing the dollar amount that is eligible for this, since we're falling below the cap that you have set of, 20 for your seniors and 10 for your
10.
veterans? I mean, what if we made it, 1,000 for seniors and 2,000 for veterans, combined with?
I mean,
I'm always happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great, I didn't want to be greedy. So,
We're wrong.
you know.
And I asked it, how do we compare it to other communities in this regard? Like, did you guys do any outreach to see where other folks are?
So the other town that I worked in was in Middlesex County. Our seniors made $1,000. They could work up to make $1,000 in that community, and that was a few years ago. I'm sure they've upped it since then. I haven't checked the communities around here. I'm not quite sure what they're doing.
As far as veteran tax work-off, because of the BRAVE Act, everyone who had adopted this in their town went up to $1,500. There are a few towns that are getting a little bit more aggressive with other tax exemptions. And you might see that before you, in the not too far future. But right now, everyone is at 1,500, well, for the most part, at 1,500. Or, which was,
For,
veterans work-off.
what do you mean?
I don't think it was
Okay.
where you were before.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on the other.
So, Mr. Chair, is it possible that we support an increase now, but also ask kind of as a contingency that you do some, just some research on other towns?
Sure.
And see how we compare, and if we're below the average, that
Sure.
we reconsider?
Sure.
Did you want to increase their annual income as well, or just what they can make?
Are they, I guess, let me ask, so there's, I don't know if there's a chart in the senior, I see the chart in the veterans, are you bound by that, or do you have discretion?
Not bound by that, I just used it as a guide, geographic means table that the VA had used. And both myself and Denise, our chart dollar
Yeah.
value, we're not so far off.
Yeah, we're pretty close. And so the original, I'm not quite sure where the original annual income came from, because I wasn't here, I wasn't the one that set that value up. So I'm not quite sure if they did something at that point and they checked with the other towns. But yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah,
I found some of the seniors last year were just missing it. That's why I want to increase it, to get them involved.
Well, and it seems too, if you haven't made changes, or we haven't made changes as a town in
Years.
16 years, that we're probably, that value can probably go up more. I mean, again, I'm fine approving as is, and then you have a chance to go out and see where the other towns are, and let's make sure that we're being fair.
Okay, sure.
I'd like to do the 1,000, I think makes sense, especially if it's been 16 years. So I would support going from 500 to 1,000 with that increase in annual income from, was it 45 to 47 and 60 to 62?
Okay, sure.
That's my opinion.
Did you have some, say, units?
No, I was just going to say, what you have in front of you has the new numbers that the assessors and veterans wanted.
Right, the only thing, yeah, the 750 was what I was asking for, but I don't have the 1,000 in there.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I also would support the increase in income and the $1,000 maximum on the seniors.
1,000.
Yeah.
So that's $1,000 for 20 spots?
For 20 spots, if we fill the 20 spots. We might this time, if
might get it.
if we have $1,000, a lot of people didn't think the 500 was worth it.
Right.
So
And then how
maybe
do
we might
you
get a few more people.
Turn people away, is it first come, first served?
So it's a first come, first serve, obviously. We'll do that first. Some people might not be eligible, and a lot of times we'll get them and then they don't want to do it. So we'll keep a list, and if somebody backs out, then we'll go to the next person on the list if we get over 20 people.
And if 20 people take advantage of this at the proposed $1,000, you have the money in your overlay to cover?
Yeah, well, I'll make sure that the money's in the overlay, yes, because it's for next year. So we'll make sure that that's in the overlay.
Okay. And I was over here conferring and reading. Did, you had mentioned possibly increasing the veterans. Did you want to do that also, or?
I'd like to see that go up to 2,000 as well for the 10 spots, and as well as increase the income for your table.
And veterans' money comes from where? Sorry, I'm fine with this, I just want to make sure from a budgeting standpoint,
we
we're
have
not
it, yeah.
over
Extended.
extending ourselves and then having to tell people no after the fact, you know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
But Estelle, you're going by the Brave Act, right?
I am. 1,500, because it increased from 1,000 to 1,500.
So Jack wants to be braver.
I know. I think there are different
I'm okay to be
conditions.
braver, but,
I think I would almost feel comfortable, like, staying within the Brave Act at this time until she has an opportunity to see where other
Come back
towns
to-
are.
Okay.
Only because there's, some regulation behind it that's separate.
Okay.
So just keep in mind, when we do the $1,000, that will increase the seniors' work-off hours as well. So that'll increase our hours more. But over the next couple of years, it'll end up coming down anyway with the minimum wages. I checked it the other day, is going up 75 cents a year, every year, to 15, so.
so next year, 1,275 and so on.
Yep.
And I would ask, how can we get in front of the schools to try to really sell this as a community service opportunity for us?
I mean, I can email them. I reached out to them last year to have, to the parents, to have their parents do the work-off program. I think we've got 1 or 2 seniors from that. So we can reach out to them and find the right person that does that. Yeah, I can do that.
And who's our liaison with the school committee?
It's Brad and Mary?
Maybe it's something that you can
We
also mention to them?
we have another meeting the second week of October. So I'll mention it. I think the thing to do would probably, we have to have someone contact guidance in the high school, because they'd probably be the ones.
That's probably a good
Yeah,
start.
that's, yeah.
And really come up with a good list of
Right.
jobs.
Exactly.
We could get a lot of volunteers and not enough work, so.
Right.
Just, especially at that age.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, unfortunately, not every department can take people. Like tax collector's office, they have a lot of, information that people can't see.
Right.
So, so there's a couple of departments that can't have anybody in there, but,
plus the hours are not really conducive because
You know,
kids are getting out of
right.
school after
Right.
3 and
I mean, they could always work, Thursday nights or something like that.
Or if it was organized and it was overseen by people, even a Saturday.
Yep.
If there were projects.
Right, and they have, I think, like half-days and stuff like that. They could probably do stuff like that. School vacations, I mean, there's opportunities out there for them.
You should get
Definitely.
between January and November 1st to complete the hours.
Yeah, and most offices are flexible when the people can come in, so.
Jen, you have a lot of paper, right, for folks to get through?
So if no one has any other questions, Chair would entertain a motion to support the Veterans Tax Work-Off Abatement Program and the Senior Tax Work-Off Abatement Programs with the increases as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. This weekend? No, I know her from somewhere, but I
Now,
couldn't,
is
like, I
Chris
couldn't,
gonna
and then when I
talk
saw you,
during your
that's where I knew her from.
town manager's report?
He's going to talk
Old business for
I didn't see it.
I know it's on here.
Okay, we have,
Catherine's here.
next is, we have to vote to approve the bond and note issues to Mass Clean Water Trust for $5,289,438.
Hi,
Good evening.
Catherine Van Dyne, Treasurer. There was a slight typo in the one that you have. I caught it.
Okay.
The attorney, in her rush to get it done, put water project instead of sewer project, so I fixed it.
All right,
On the vote.
great.
It's just the top line I was reading at the time. I had time to read it, so. Just wanted to get it read into the record properly.
Thank you.
And then, Jack, you'll just need to sign 3 for me.
3 for you.
Yeah, I have.
Of the new ones, though, the ones I just gave him.
Oh, sorry.
There's a typo on those.
Oh,
All right.
Is that this one here?
No.
I guess the one I just gave you, so if you want to hand those back to me, I'll...
No, I think I have the signed ones.
Alrighty. So, I, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Norton, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting of the board held September 5, 2019, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, and at which a quorum was present, the following vote was passed, all of which appears upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted, number 1, that the town shall issue a bond or bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5,700,000, the bonds, pursuant to Chapters 29C and 44 of the general laws and votes of the town passed May 8, 2017, Article 8, which authorized a total borrowing of $3,320,000, May 14, 2018, Article 8, which authorized a total borrowing of $880,000, and May 15, 2019, Article 13, which authorized a total borrowing of $1,500,000 for the sewer project identified in such votes, the project. 2, that in anticipation of the issuance of the bonds, the treasurer is authorized to issue an interim loan note or notes, the notes, from time to time in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5,700,000. 3, that each bond or note shall be issued as a single registered security and sold to the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, the trust, at a price determined pursuant to the financing agreement. 4, that the treasurer is authorized to determine the date, the form, the maximum interest rate, and the principal maturities of each bond and note, and to execute a financing agreement or agreements with the trust with respect to the sale of the bonds, and notes, such date, form, and maturities, and the specific interest rate or rates of the bonds and notes to be approved by a majority of the Board of Selectmen and the treasurer, and evidenced by their execution of the bonds or notes. 5, that all action taken to date by the town and its officers and agents to carry out the project and its financing, including the execution of any loan, commitment, or agreement by the treasurer, are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. And 6, that the treasurer and the other appropriate town officials are each hereby authorized to take any and all actions necessary or convenient to carry out the provisions of this vote, including execution and delivery of the financing agreements and the project regulatory agreements relating to the project. I further certify that the agenda for the meeting, a copy of which is attached hereto, was posted on the bulletin board of the town at least 24 hours before the meeting in compliance with Section 7-8B of the town charter. I further certify that the vote was adopted at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda of the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above vote, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building that the office of the town clerk is located, or, if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.032B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting that no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the bonds or notes were taken in executive session, and that the official record of the meeting was made available to the public promptly and remains available to the public, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, as amended. I further certify that the vote has not been amended, supplemented, or revoked, and remains in effect on this date, dated September 5, 2019.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the bond and note issues.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, you have 3 copies?
I got 3 copies.
Okay.
Just make yours says sewer project.
The next order of business on the fall town meeting, there are 4 or 5 articles that have to do with planning. And so, Mr. Yunus, if you can tell me the numbers.
Yep, Article 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 are all zoning bylaw articles, and I ask that the Board of Selectmen vote to send those to the Planning Board to receive their non-binding recommendation.
So Chair will entertain a motion to forward Articles 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 of the fall town meeting to the planning board for their review for a non-binding vote of recommendation to report back to the Board of Selectmen before we take a vote on them.
So moved.
Second.
Can I, is
Yes.
24 is in there, the petition of David Cohen?
Yeah, because it has,
Okay.
it deals with zoning.
Okay.
And so they have to approve or give their recommendation on any zoning article that goes to town meeting floor. So the proper procedure would be for them to have first bite at the apple, then they throw it back to us, and with their knowledge of zoning, with their referral, we could make a more educated vote on the articles.
Can I just ask from process, didn't these come from the planning board, or no?
3 of these are petition articles,
Oh, okay.
and one is from the first 21 is from the planning board, and 23 was petition, 24 was,
Petition, yeah.
22, excuse
22,
me.
23, and 24.
23, 24
Okay.
are all petition articles.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand process. Is that typical that they show up on the list and then
We have to
put them back to the planning board?
Right, let them
Gotcha.
go through and make sure that they conform to planning, zoning, anything that's in their knowledge, and then they can report back to us before we take a vote and do the wrong thing. So, I'm not sure, I don't think I got the, did I get the?
You got a motion in a second.
Okay. In that case, I'll go to a vote. All those in favor of referring Articles 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 of the fall town meeting to the planning board for their review. Indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. Old business, update on the Reed and Barton site.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
So, good evening to the board. ESM, the site contractors completed the interior abatement of Building K through the town. That was the warrant article for any asbestos within the building itself. The exterior abatement has been completed by ATC through the DEP, and the last of their funding through the bankruptcy court. I passed out a copy of the administrative warrant that I received from Bristol County Superior Court to enter the property and take any and all reasonable steps to make the building safe and demolish any parts or whole or dilapidated structures we're in. So I received that with counsel last Thursday at Bristol Superior and New Bedford. I've also submitted an article for the fall town meeting for the funds to demolish buildings along Cross Street only, for the funding, and then also for funding for CEC, the LSP, for the next 6 months. I have concerns that have been raised by the demolition is to take place during the winter. The cost will rise, so I hope to have the funds appropriated in October and the demo take place in November of this year, prior to the winter, and also potential of snow load and have an effect on those structures as well. I've asked council to address the town's liability with the EPA, so council can get to, so we can get prior to the completion date in December, so we can get in on the site. There might be a potential conflict if we enter too soon, so I'm going to have council address any of those issues. Recent site visits show that there is still illegal people illegally entering the site to steal copper. More pipe insulation has been thrown on the floor, more copper has been removed from the building. I can't secure the site enough. While I was out there, it's quite evident the building is in a further state of disrepair and decay. More holes have opened up on the roof and the flooring. So the sooner I get these buildings down, the better. That's my update so far. I am going to have Mr. DiGiuseppe get up and talk on the grants that we've applied for. But before I depart, does anybody have any questions for me? Mr. Conway?
So you said the warrant includes the demolition of the buildings along Cross Street as well as CEC for 6 months?
Yes, sir.
So what's the...
Cross Street, Elm Street, the whole site. I can take the whole site down and remove it.
So the full 1.2...
I'm only going to go for about $500,000 to remove the imminent threat on Cross Street. We're going to be applying for grants to supplement the assessment and the demolition and the removal of the rest.
Okay.
If I don't get that funding through grants, then I will be back in front of the town in the spring for the remainder of the funding to do the demolition. But the imminent threat is along Cross Street, those
Sure.
buildings directly abutting it.
Right, and that was the cost for demo, that was around like $4...
Yeah, $480, and then I put a small contingency fund in case we have an overage, and then I included the engineering from LSP, which is mandated by law.
Sure. And what's the value on the LSP?
The LSP is about $30,000 for 6 months.
Okay, does that need to go out for RFP because it's over 10 grand?
No.
No?
Engineering doesn't have to go out to bid.
Engineering doesn't need to go out to bid. Okay.
I have been asked to go back out to bid, public sealed bid for the demolition because it is exceeding a threshold. So I will be going back out to bid, sealed bid,
Okay.
for the demolition again.
Right. So why, I guess I don't understand the process. You had already done a public bid, right? So why?
But those bids came in higher than a threshold, so now I have to do a sealed bid to meet state requirements.
Gotcha. Okay.
What do you mean by sealed bid? Like just you get bids and nobody knows what they are?
Until a certain date and time,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
And then everyone who bidded or bid could be there in the room while they open the bids and they read them publicly.
Okay.
Just so they no one can say that, you cheated and changed XYZ's company's bid $5 less than mine.
I gotcha.
What's the timing on that sealed bid RFP?
I have to get that done immediately if timing's going to work for us. So I'm going to be working on that next week.
Chris, can I ask too, and I might be getting my facts mixed up, but the one company that you were looking at for this, right, that had...
Atlantic, yes.
Yeah, they were the ones recommended by the DEP?
DEP gave me 3 names. The LSP concurred, and I procured bids from those 3.
Okay.
But it wasn't a sealed bid process, so I haven't met state requirements for that threshold. So
Okay.
I need to go back and do it again.
Okay, great, thank you. Can I ask one more question in respect to this order? So on this order, it mentions that we're able to install a fence around the entire perimeter of the property. Is there anything additional that you're doing because of this order that you haven't done in respect to trying to secure the property?
No, I have secured fencing along Cross Street. I have boarded up as mandated through National Fire Prevention Arsonist standards. I have secured the building as best as I can, but because of the state of disrepair and decay, there are large holes, so no matter what I board up, they just keep coming in. So they need to come down. I can't stress that enough. There's very little I can do, and I can't see pouring more money into it. Cost me probably $20,000 to have fencing and more boarding put up. I'd rather see that to go into the removal and abatement.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone?
All set?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Mr. Di Giuseppe's going to talk on the grant.
Yeah, just a quick update. Just wanting to let you know that the end of August, we submitted an application to Mass Development for the Brownfield Grant, which is an assessment grant for $100,000. So we expect within the next couple of months to hear about that. We also put in a proposal to Tufts University. There was a graduate program, Urban Studies, but every year, their first year program, they do 5 field studies. So we've applied for that to have them, to see if they'd be interested in coming in and drawing renderings of what a future site could look like, and maybe even help determine some aspect of what type of uses could go there. So we should know that. We will know, get a response by the end of this month from the university. And that's all I have. So any questions?
No, but that was the professor in charge of that. His specialty was brownfield, I
Right.
believe you had mentioned.
Right.
So that, you're hoping that gives you a leg up?
Hoping. Let's hope.
Yeah.
And they hadn't done a brownfield proposal in about 5 years, so hopefully we're due.
Maybe using the right lure.
Let's hope. Hopefully the stars will align on all of this.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Condo?
I can't find it in my notes, and I don't have your Excel sheet from last time handy, but I thought there was a couple others, grants, that had due dates before September 1. So
There are some that are in the fall. They haven't opened up yet. Mass Development has another one. It's called the Site Readiness, which we're hoping we could apply that. We will apply to that for demolition funds.
Okay.
So that one, off the top of my head, I can't remember what other fall funding there is right now. And then immediately in the spring, there's another large application from Mass Housing and Community Development for their Community Development Fund, which we can also apply for the demolition funding.
Okay. And did CEC help with the application for the $100,000
Yes.
brownfield?
They did, pretty significantly, because this application asked about environmental conditions, so they attached their reports to it, which I hope will put us in a good light.
So how are we paying CEC? Because from what I understood from last time, there was no money left on any existing POs. Is there another thing that has been open to support the grant process, or is this out of the goodness of their heart that they're helping us out here?
That's my understanding, is they're just working pro bono. Of course, if we get this brownfield grant, that would help pay for them.
Okay.
So they would retro the hours that they've provided to us? You mean?
I don't believe so.
No, but I think the idea is they're hoping that you can get the $100,000 grant and then pay them for work going forward.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Do we need to clarify that this is pro bono, what they've done? I mean, I just didn't get the sense that,
They have been
Feel that
showing up
confidently.
at town meetings and working with us without payment for the last few weeks.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But is it, I guess, to Renee's point, is there like some written agreement that the services that they're providing are done out of
I have
pro bono?
No securities, that's why I'm going for funding for them at the town fall meeting.
Okay. From a, I guess, a propriety standpoint, is it okay to be potentially be incurring cost without any mechanism to pay for it?
If they're willing to grant, like when they came to town meeting, they didn't bill, and they've been attending other meetings, there's nothing against us taking services.
Okay.
We're not anticipating them to bill retroactively, and they wouldn't have any standing to do so. Like I said, they're gambling that the Brownfield grant will come through. It will give them additional work, and they'll make their money that way.
and because it's engineering, we don't have to go out to bid, so we can,
Right. Especially, they would have, even if it went out to bid, they would have a foot up, only because they're familiar with the site, in my opinion.
no, I understand, but then I wonder, is there any conflict of interest that they're providing services
No,
without
I don't
payment
I don't think so.
in lieu of potentially getting a contract in the future?
Yeah, I'm all about taking free
Oh,
services.
free, yeah, me
If
too.
I just don't want them to come back in a month and say, oh, by the way, all those hours we put in, you got to pay us for.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I don't think they have any standing to do that. They're aware of what they were hired to do. If they go beyond that, all the better for us.
Okay.
And like I said, I think what they're doing is they're gambling on
Just doing business development.
future, exactly.
Okay.
Can I ask one question before you go? And I apologize if this was answered in the meeting that I was not, but I know when, Paul, when you were last here, we talked about 2 grants that we applied for previously, and we didn't know the status of the second one. I think, Mike, you were going to follow up, and if you did send it via email, I'm sorry, I don't remember
Yeah.
seeing it.
I don't remember either.
I think he did send it, but I don't recall.
We were,
Denied the first.
the first one we didn't get, and they thought we had a good chance of getting the second one, but I
Right.
don't remember when the date is.
Could you take that as a
Sure.
follow-up, please? Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, just units.
You had asked me to check with council and on the use of the funds from the 2 articles that were at town meeting for the senior center and the town hall, and the use of those funds for CEC. And, I did send you an email from town council. It says, such expenditure falls within the scope of the appropriation is consistent therewith. I mean, there's a lot in here, but that's the main.
But she said we're in the clear.
That's the Reader's Digest version.
So I think
Or
just
more
to-
like Cliff Notes.
What's the reader's digest?
So for my edification, I think, well, what I had seen, some of those CEC bills were charged back to an earlier warrant that was like the general budget article from the year prior.
Right. What I had said in the email that I provided you was that there was a correction made on those POs. Those POs referred to the original article that set 1.5 million aside, but that was amended at town meeting to say that you couldn't appropriate or pay out of that article. The money had to be appropriated in another article.
Okay.
And so that was corrected on the PO. They weren't paid out of that. They were paid out of these 2 articles. And that was split, their bills were split based on the town hall being 60% of the project and senior center being 40%. Their bills were split whenever they came in, 60/40.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that information.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Unless I see a hand go up, I think you're all set.
Great. Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
And just to clean up a couple things. We were supposed to have the water sewer and superintendent here tonight, but a family matter arose where he had to transport his wife after a medical procedure this evening, so he'll be here at our next meeting instead. And the next item on our agenda has also been scratched because the representative from Nextel could not, NextGrid, I believe. Nextel. NextGrid couldn't attend tonight and will be here at the next meeting.
We just went in the Wayback Machine with Nextel.
That's,
Blackberry.
well, it's putting out my glasses on and off so much I don't focus. Okay, review of the host community agreement for retail marijuana establishments with the town council's feedback.
I have not heard from town council. I did provide you with, you had asked the chief to figure out what the cost would be for those certifications that he referred to, so I did provide you with that.
I know you did, I saw
I
it.
did. That's what I'm saying now. They kept it handy. Oh, here it is. So, there were two things he was talking about. One was advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement, or ARIDE, and he anticipates that that'd be 20 officers, 16 hours each for training, or 320 hours. So the cost to be $20,800 for that. And then the overtime costs for DRE, or the drug recognition expert, would be 132 hours, or $8,580. So, roughly $29,000, almost $30,000.
And do you know, is that a one-time, or is that the annual?
I believe, I'll double check with the chief, but I believe that's a one-time certification.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So that appears to just be the hours for the officers involved. Is there also a program cost per officer in addition to their time?
I don't know. I'll check with him on that.
Okay.
Maybe ask as part of that if these are one-time fees, if there's any sort of continuing education that may be incurred down the road. And if it's, just for our knowledge, it may be something that would have to be put into the budget, not specifically go through an HCA.
Right.
That seems quite high. Not the cost of the training, but to have that as part of an agreement.
I disagree. I think what I've seen in terms of projections for annual revenue for a retail marijuana shop, it can be upwards of 20 to 25 million. So I think 20K is.
Of one
Yeah,
retail?
for one retail. So that's what, 0.1%?
0.1, yeah.
Can't do the math in my head, but.
Well, it's close enough.
I mean, I think it's a very small fraction of it that.
Yeah.
I personally don't have any objection to at least asking for it, and then
Right.
it becomes a negotiation point with anybody that would like to do business in town.
Yeah, I think that it's something that council should weigh in on too, because again, I don't know if there, are caps or anything.
I'll ask. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I actually also agree with Jack because, I think I said this at the last meeting, this is a new industry, relatively speaking, right? And especially new to Norton, and we're not sure what type of issues we're going to have to deal with. And I think if we're going to make a recommendation to the public that we allow this type of business in, I think we need to also show them that we're serious about their safety. And again, considering the amount of money that's made in the industry, I think $30,000 to make sure that our officers are well-trained to deal with any of these situations.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not opposed, I just want to make sure we're not,
Gouging someone?
asking for more than we're legally permitted.
Yeah, because my other concern is that this really just impacts the first one, because then the
Yes,
officers are
it's
trained, so now is there, because the
But-
second one that comes in doesn't have to have the carrying cost necessarily.
But, we did talk about other things like education for the youth in town or whatever. So, I mean, I'm sure we could come up with
$20,000 of coloring books.
another reason, yeah. And as we get used to it, we'll see what's needed. It may be that we need more officers to deal with this. So I don't think it's a one-time cost. It is unfortunate for the first company coming in, but I think that there's going to be additional costs as we allow additional companies in, if we allow additional companies in.
Well, again, it can be a blanket too, where we say, X amount of money is going to be for training, and we allocate that to this, or we allocate it to something else. It doesn't, we don't necessarily have to say in there that it's for the A-RIDE.
Yeah. And I also think there's an inherent benefit to being the first one to the market, right? So if that's something that they're willing to pay in order to be the first one in town, as long as it's legally acceptable through council, I don't see an issue with it.
Agree. Any further discussion? If not, discussion on remote participation. I know I've seen only one committee respond back positively that they wanted.
Yeah, rec was the only one that
Recreation.
said yes.
So we had the
other-
Charter Commission, we had the Recs, right?
I probably missed.
No, remember Laura was here talking on behalf of
yeah,
the Charter
yeah.
Commission?
What did she say?
She said that because we asked based on the existing regulations if they would want to have anything more, and she felt that the regulations were sufficient. She said they would definitely benefit from it.
I mean, can we just make a stipulation that any board within the town who wishes to
Yeah, if you vote to
support it?
have remote participation, the other boards don't have to do it. It would be up to the individual boards to decide. But if you decide that the town is allowed to do that, that's your decision. They don't have to do
Right.
it, but they'll be allowed to do it.
Okay, do we just vote to allow remote participation, or do we need, like, rules and regulations?
It's written in there, Brett, I'm just trying to
I
find
know I've
my-
seen it someplace.
I came in with a stack of papers, I just don't know what happened to them.
Mr. Chairman, I
Chairman,
think we
yes.
should take the, did you say, Mr. Chairman, first?
No, you've definitely beat me to it.
Oh, okay. I think we should take we did have the rules and regulations. I think we should make it into a policy, and then I think we should, totally my opinion, we should accept the policy, and then any board that wants to participate in it or not, either way, the members have to sign it, because there are certain things, I mean, you can't, somebody dialing in remotely can't vote, you still have to have quorum, and
Yeah.
this could be kind of a gray area, and it could be a disservice to the public if the people on the boards are not obeying the intent of it, right? So it's supposed to allow somebody who can't be there to be part of the discussion, but that's it. We certainly shouldn't be making any sort of policy or votes or anything else based on 3 people calling in remotely to a meeting
Right.
that's the Pats were on or something.
Yeah.
And if you could think about how would you want it worded for that? And also, do you want something in there that someone can't do it
More than a certain.
so many meetings in a row, or
Yeah.
so many meetings, and,
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure if we take any action on this tonight, we're just on the notion of it being allowed in town, but not specifically, because I'm all for it for many boards. I'm very much against it for this board.
Uh-huh.
But I just want to make sure that we're not voting to
Well, I think
implement it with us.
what I personally would like is, I'd like to go forward and have a policy written so that we can look at it, pull it apart, edit it, and make it the way we want it to be.
Right.
But I definitely think that we have to set limits so that some people aren't just call from home members of
mail it in.
boards.
It is pretty specific,
I-
and
I-
I don't know
I
what
understand.
happened if somebody has a pile of papers that don't look like theirs. 'Cause I had my notes throughout there, because it does talk about the reasons that you can call remotely, like one was personal illness. Because I actually put a note on there about not only personal illness, but if it's the illness of somebody else. But they had basic guidelines that you have to follow.
Right.
So, I put some notes in there of things that we should consider.
So,
in addition to that too. And I can't remember if there was anything about like a repeat occurrence.
I don't think
But-
there was.
but I personally think that we should add something like that, just to make sure that, people don't get sick every Thursday.
I would consider too putting in there, I don't want to say escalation, right, but I think that each board has to, while they can't approve, and it's cited in there that they can approve, they can't make additional recommendations, like it has to be a level set recommendations, whatever we say is
Right.
what's going to apply for all the boards, but I think that it still has to be that each committee or each board votes on it, or commission votes on it to approve remote participation within their group.
Right.
And then maybe that, we consider that as committees change over, that they do it every year or every 2 years, to make sure that the group still collectively believes that they should be able to have remote participation. And that could be something too, where we place more accountability on the chair, that if there's a feeling that's being abused, that it can be reconsidered at any
That
time.
he turns the phone off.
Right. Right.
Okay, but yeah, I think going forward, it's something that we're not ready to approve or disapprove of a policy tonight, but something that we have to work on.
So what's
Okay.
the next step to get a policy drafted for us to review and comment on?
Yeah, and get me any thoughts that you have on things that you'd like to see in there to limit some of those.
So email them to Mike only, don't no, only I don't want to get in trouble with open meeting, so,
And then when you vote, you'd vote, we'll have the law here, so you accept that statute, and then
with
vote
these.
your policy as a second.
Right. Great. Okay. Now we have discussion on the fall annual town meeting and list of articles.
Okay.
I don't know, which you want to do first? Do you want to go through articles? We're not ready to yet.
Right, we're not ready to go through
Okay.
it.
Now, did everyone get a chance to see Lauren's email today regarding the fact that, the way I read it now, she doesn't think we can reopen the agenda, so we have an alternate plan here.
Yeah.
Where we have a timetable, we can have a special town meeting within the town meeting. And this is the timeline that shows that we could do that. So what we could do is we could call for a special town meeting within the fall town meeting. I would, on the bottom it says 7 o'clock, I would suggest we call it for 7:30, because that's usually the time they have the special town meetings within the town meeting. It'd be at the high school auditorium. And then we can open the warrant for articles. I know that Ms. Deli has mentioned the renaming of the Board of Selectmen, I believe, to the Select Board, the IDC to the Economic Development Commission. I'm not sure of any other name changes, but another thing that Mike and I were talking about is we could include the change on the town elections to Saturdays. Get that taken care of. Although I still, the way my understanding is on that, it's not going to be effective this coming year anyways, because we have, after we vote here, we still have to vote. I mean, after we vote at town meeting, it still has to go to a ballot. So, but at least it would, get things moving. So I don't know if we would, I know the name changes, I would think could be in one article, and then we could put the voting change to Saturdays for town elections as a second article, but I'm open to suggestions on any other further, or any further articles that I've forgotten. And I don't have to know right tonight because,
Yes, you do.
oh, I do have to know tonight. And that, forget what I just said. I need to know right now.
Let's see, because when does it close? Yeah, it closes September 17th.
So we had talked about possibly including one about changing the composition of the water sewer commissioners to appointed versus elected.
We can put that.
We can put that on.
Well, I mean, if that's something you want to talk about, because
That's going to take a while.
that's real, I'm just giving my opinion. That's really a charter commission. I mean, because the board didn't form a charter committee, because they didn't want to infringe on what the charter commission was doing. And the name changes, that's not that big of a deal, but changing the water and sewer commission is pretty significant.
I mean, isn't that similar, though, to the town clerk going from elected to appointed?
Well, that was a charter,
That was
Driven, that was back in 2011,
yeah, that was a charter change.
and it took several years to do it?
Yeah.
It was rejected once, and then with the next charter committee, with the original charter, it was rejected. Then when the charter committee met again in 2010, it was put on again, and it passed. And the water and sewer one did not pass that time.
Any discussion on that? I mean,
I mean, I guess my question is does it have to be tied to the charter review? Or is it something, I mean, you made a mention of a lot of work, and maybe you want to expand on that?
I think if, we're kind of doing this at last minute, and this is a pretty big subject in the town right now, I think that I would actually like some recommendations from the Charter Commission as they're looking through, the different options of what we can do. And, I mean, are we ready to take this to town meeting with an argument to go elected versus appointed with really no backup right now? Like,
In 2 months. No, I hear you.
I mean,
2 months is going to go by like that. And I really would like to see what the Charter Commission comes back with,
And we could get their feedback, and we could
because then we
put
can
that
work in
onto the
conjunction
May.
with them. If they say it's a great idea, then we're working with them to get it passed. It's been a difficult vote. It's not something
If
that people are going to just.
if I may, I know Mr. Unit's vision is to have a Department of Public Works. And that way the Water Department and Highway Department would be under that. And I would think that that would make more sense than just making, it'd be a step process, but it might help in selling the idea if the plan was put together with that,
Right.
to say that our goal is to make a DPW, to save money, not have duplications, and to do that, we'd have to have the Water and Sewer Commissioners directly under the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. And to me, it would make more sense to have a plan to present to people, that we're not just doing it because we think we can do a better job, or just make more accountability, but it's a plan to make the town function better.
Can I ask, only because I don't remember, how was this put forth before? Was it was specifically just going from elected to appointed, but they would still be volunteer positions?
Yes.
Or they would be, so they wouldn't be paid?
No. We can't pay, the Board of Selectmen years ago used to get paid. I think it was like maybe $500 a year. But what happened at the time, and it was only a 3-member board, but by paying them a $500 stipend for a year, it made them eligible for town health insurance. And
Are you kidding me?
And 2 of the 3 were independent business people and used the town health insurance. That is the reason that nobody on any of the boards gets paid now, because it opens you to providing them with the health insurance.
That's why they stopped paying in most towns, was because of that.
Right.
Became
So-
such a big cost.
Again, history, but That's the reason.
That's good history.
That's the reason that the selectmen no longer get a stipend, and it all has to do with health insurance.
The other thing that used to happen with that was, I know like in my town, there was a selectman that, so they were paid $2,000 a year, say, and this guy was a selectman for like 30 years. Well, your retirement is based on your highest 3 years at that time. So he got a job in at the State House for 3 years that was like $50,000 a year. So his pension was based on 50, not 2,000.
Way to buck the system, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, no, it would still be volunteers. It was just the idea was that you could, the argument was always that this way here you could make sure that people were qualified. And I don't know if I'm personally qualified to determine somebody's qualification.
Well, when you appoint too, you have more, it's outside of the town as well, right? So, because it doesn't, if you were to appoint the position, would it have to be residents of the town?
No, it's still,
It would still be?
yeah, it's just like appointing like the
Finance committee.
finance, well,
Oh, okay.
we appoint the conservation. So, and a whole list of others that you'll see in December,
Okay.
as we do reappointments,
Yeah.
the historical commission, and, you know, there's a whole list of positions that we appoint. And it'd be the same thing, they all have to be citizens.
And that's why it'd be interesting to see the Charter Commission too, because do you have an appointed Water and Sewer Commission? Or, like in my town, the selectmen are the public works directors, so you don't have that extra layer. So that's something the Charter Commission would have to look at. Do you change it to that or not? I mean, I'm sure they got a lot of things they're thinking about as they go along, so
Isn't that the way it is in Mansfield?
I'm not sure.
I'm almost positive, because when we were going to the meetings for the merging of the sewage treatment plant, I'm almost positive that the selectmen in Mansfield were also the water and sewer commissioners.
They have a nice new building. I was driving by there today.
Yeah.
Just separate topic, their municipal, even the font on their sign, I was like, wow, that's impressive.
The one on the common, the one that used to be the school?
No, the new one that they just
Oh,
built.
the
across
Public
from
Works.
the dumps.
106.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the DPW next door,
Yeah.
the new public safety building.
Yep.
It's called the, I think they have it called like Municipal Center or something, is what the
Yeah.
kiosk.
Yeah, they have police, fire, and public works.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it is a very nice complex.
It is, yeah. Nope, Dodina.
So,
Yeah, I'm fine deferring that Water Sewer Commission to a later point.
I personally think that if we could put together a plan during the winter, like I said, with the site being that we want to go to a DPW and merge the two departments, to me, it makes more sense, because it gives the more flexibility that, you know, if you've got a backhoe operator, you can use them in both departments. And if they need them, like if they've got, you know, broken water pipes, and they need a couple guys on the backhoes, they go and do water for a while, where I don't think we have that flexibility
They
now.
don't do that now?
I don't think they really do.
That's unfortunate.
So, yes.
I would have two questions, I guess. So under Article 4 for the water operating budget, would that include their proposed rate increase, or would that need to be a separate article?
Town meeting doesn't vote on their rate increase, they just set the water and sewer rates, the Water
Like,
Commission.
Yeah, for some reason I thought I was.
So their rates are set based on what's needed in that,
Okay.
you know, for that budget supplement.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, we just vote to allow them to spend the money.
Gotcha.
How they get it is up to
So they
them.
raise their own, and then we have to tell them how to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think all the warrants have said that the money is, it comes from fees.
Okay.
it doesn't address rates or anything,
Okay.
but it says that's how
Yeah,
they.
I guess I was under the wrong impression from the recent public hearing that we would need to vote on any potential rate increase as a town, but it could have just been my misinterpreting. so.
No, I thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure how it was going to flush out in the
Yeah.
articles.
I guess who would vote for a rate increase if they had the option not to?
Well, if it's for clean water, I would.
And then the other question I had is Article 14 for repurpose $70,000 appropriated for a building envelope study. I don't know if we can just clarify the language in that to line up more with what the PBC had intended, because I think they intend to still do the building envelope study, but they were looking for additional funds to.
Right, when we write the article, they meet Monday, I think, so.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only reason we're not voting on these is they're still placeholders.
Okay, I didn't know what
Yeah.
could be changed at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's it for me.
Can I ask a question back to the special town meeting?
Yes.
Can I just ask for clarity that these dates, we're confident that these dates are the dates that we're supposed to be following for the bylaw and that we're,
Michelle Brown worked this whole thing out
Okay.
today. That's Michelle's work, everything she did today.
okay,
Just double checking dates and bylaws, and let's put, every time we get one of these, she hits them right on the nail.
okay.
So, are we just the three things then for now?
Is it 3 or 2?
It's
Well,
three, it's, well,
Well,
potentially two articles,
The two
but
name
three items.
changes.
and the
Saturday vote.
Saturday voting.
Okay.
Is that, Jack, can I just ask, because you have your notes and I have unfortunately misplaced mine, was that the only thing that we had on there?
That's all I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, when's it close? Closes the 17th.
Right.
If, for some reason, somebody realizes that we've omitted something, if you can let us know so that we could call a quick meeting
Okay,
and just get together to approve it, to put it on the warrant before the 17th. But, so that means you have to let me know before, like, the 14th, so we can get it posted.
and can I just ask?
If Jen's still here. If Jen's not here.
Baby's staying inside.
Give me a
just for
couple
this.
extra days.
Can I ask, I know we officially voted as a board for the change in the election day. Do we need to do so for the Board of Selectmen and the IDC as well?
We can. So I'll entertain a motion, although usually we do it once it's written
Well,
into a
once-
warrant.
Okay.
Yeah, but you should probably vote to put those articles on, that would be good.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to put the articles as we've discussed onto the special town meeting that will be held on
October 21st.
October 21st at 7:30 in the high school auditorium.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, you didn't vote yet, right, to set the special town meeting, so you
Oh.
vote to open the warrant and vote the date that it's, in time that it's going to close and all that.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to set the date of the special town meeting as October 21st at the Norton High School auditorium at 7:30, and to open the warrant today, and to close the warrant on the 17th
At 4 PM.
at 4 PM,
Of September.
September 17th.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And like I said, if anybody thinks this, goes through their notes and sees that we overlooked something, just, as long as we can get it done before the 17th, we'll, even just three of us get together for a quick 5-minute meeting, unless it's something that we have to really discuss. But, we'll make it happen. Okay?
Great.
Okay.
Appreciate this getting done.
I see nothing under the town manager's report. Selectmen, you know what, I completely omitted, does anyone have any announcements?
No.
I didn't see any in the
I didn't
packet.
see any in the packet either. Just the sale of veterans, which we've already discussed.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll just ask if there's any selectmen's report in mail. And Ms. Conley.
Yes, the mentioned that the PVC would be looking to do a RFP for the site assessment, going out and doing a real estate survey for potential sites for town hall and community center. I don't know if Dinah has reached out, but she would like to have that RFP drafted and ready to go, assuming it gets approved at town meeting, that they can get that out like October 22nd, so that they don't lose any more time on that. So is that something that we can do, or does that need to come directly from her?
She should, the building committee should let us know what
Okay,
they
so
want.
has she
Just
reached
tell
out yet?
No.
Okay.
She should just let me know what they want, and then we'll draft it and
Okay.
get it out.
All right. Two other things. I had heard from someone in Sharon that they are moving forward with putting solar awnings over their parking lots in schools, with a crazy ROI that within the next 20 years, it'll have completely paid off their town hall. So I don't know if that's something that we could consider looking into.
I know the schools were talking about it, but I don't know whether they're moving forward on that. We are moving forward, working with a consultant to develop over the police parking lot, solar panels, so there'll be a canopy in the back there. And so we're working with our consultant Cadmus to develop that for us.
Okay. Excellent. And then the school committee will make the decision on the school lots as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just a general note, I found out today that Mass State Code is changing as of January 1st. So any new parking lots that get built, like say for the town hall or community center, they need to have provisions for every single parking spot to be capable of supporting electric vehicle charging.
I was afraid you were going to say
So it's,
Really?
you don't need a charger at every spot, but you need to have a distribution
Conduit under
panel
it.
and service available to support that.
Has it passed, or is that proposed?
I was told today that that is a definite.
Wow.
It's January 1st, which I'm glad my project at work is approved.
So private developments too, or just?
Yeah, this is private development, yeah. So I don't know if there's an exception for municipal,
Right.
but I know in my world that we dodged a bullet
Wow.
to have to put like 700 charging spots. Yeah.
Next, they're going to mandate that you have to buy an electric car.
So that's the end of my stuff.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had one item just in respect to an email that we received this
Yeah.
past week, and it was from Dave Lennon. And I'm sorry, again, I had notes written somewhere, but he emailed us again about the condition of the property in front of his. I don't know if we were able to address that.
Yes, I talked to the tenant today, and they said they would definitely make sure that everything is cleaned up. So he should get on that right away.
Did we get a date or commitment date and when that would be done?
Yeah, he was going to start today, and everything would be cleaned up this week, and
Okay.
it had to be done.
What about, and I don't, we're kind of landlords in this situation. He made mention of the gutters being full of debris. Is that the responsibility of the tenant, or is that the responsibility of us?
We'll have to look at, we could take care of that.
Okay. Excellent, thank you.
I forgot one thing.
Not a problem.
There was a back and forth between a resident about the handicap parking on Town Common and Mr. Carmichael. Do you know if that was resolved? The last I was copied on, the resident had asked about the location of the spot, and whether that was going to change, and I haven't seen anything else.
Not since the last email. I know the sign is up now,
Okay.
but other than that, nothing further. I'll talk to Chris.
Yeah, can you ask just to close that loop?
Yep.
'Cause I think that becomes just sticks in the craw of people that there's not a response back to some of these questions. So I really feel that we owe it to folks to at least acknowledge the receipt of something. If it's not the answer they want, at least they're getting
Yep.
an answer.
Okay. Anything else? Under warrants and minutes, I'd like to report that I approved invoice warrant AP 20-10 dated September 5, 2019, in the amount of $549,422.35. And I don't remember the specifics, but about 20 to 25% of that was school-related costs, and I believe it was about 20% was, from where it was going, I believe it was union dues that had been collected and was being forwarded to the appropriate unions. Next meeting is September 19th. We have a 7:15 public hearing for a change of managers on a liquor license. And anything else that comes up, just let Jen know. And if Jen's not around, then forget it, we're not gonna have an agenda.
Let Mike know.
Yeah, let Mike and me in the loop, just in case. Not that we can do anything about it, but without Jen, we're gonna be lost.
So we're going on maternity leave, too?
So, if there's no other business come before the board, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Shane.